being in the now. So for me, a big thing has been what's happening now. Let me focus on that. Let me be with the person that I'm with. Let me really enjoy this moment instead of wishing I was somewhere else. Or I'm not saying let's not dream about that, but also I'm alive now. I'm alive in this moment. And there have been a lot of bereavements around me. And I've lived longer than quite a few friends now. And I'm very, very conscious as I get older. There's less and less time and never know when, we never know when we're going to kind of rebirth into something else. So I really want to revel in the gorgeousness of small, tiny moments and really absorb that into my cells and appreciate all that.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. This podcast is for and about women of colour and our relationship with nature. Hosted by me, Sheree Mack. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is committed to exploring the experiences of women of colour with Mother Nature. We want to provide spaces where the hidden voices in the environmental and conservation conversations can explore their relationship with the natural world. Inspired by our time spent outdoors, we amplify the voices of women of colour, our stories, our conversations, interviews, photography, writing, and artwork. We'll be exploring our legacies, histories, and memories which have had an influence and effect upon how we perceive ourselves within the natural world and within the environmental and climate justice movements. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is a space for women, feminine, and non-binary people who are Black, Indigenous, people of colour to explore their relationship with nature. Thank you. Hey, and before you know it, the Earth, Sea, Love podcast is back again. Welcome. Hi, this is your host, Dr. Sheree Mack, and I am very happy to be popping into your, feeds, ears, consciousness again with another episode of the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. And this one is with the wonderful Sister Dal Kular, who I have known now for many a years. First meeting online, becoming a fangirl of her work and all that she be. And this is, I think, the second time that we've had Dal on. We are revisiting Dal after a very few busy years of collaboration and working together and cheering each other on. So I am so pleased to bring this episode to you. And what to expect in this episode? Well, there's a lot of giggling, because we do enjoy a laugh when we get together, but we also explore some really deep and important creative fugitivity practices, methods, projects. The last time we worked together was on the Black Nature in Residence program a project which was highlighted on here in the past, which was created and project coordinated by Identity on Time. And the aim was to put 5 creatives of the global majority in the 5 northern national parks. It was so good to speak to Dal about this project on reflection with time that's gone by, because there were certain narratives that I was saying to myself about this project afterwards, and Dal helped me to reposition, re-engage with the project from a different angle, and made me realize what such a radical and dislodging or disruptive project this was. I have to thank Dal for giving me that perspective, because that was needed during this conversation. And you could say that we do talk a lot about disrupting the normal narratives, the old stories, to create new stories, not just outside but internally, how we can, or how we're forced to maybe dislodge or adjust to new ways of being and new narratives. As Dal talks at length about her 2 head injuries that have made her change how she moves and navigates through this world. So it was really, really generous of Dal to talk about learning how to be with a head injury and how to still manage health and well-being, and how that has to involve patience and a whole heap of grace. And maybe this isn't accepted or promoted or supported within ableist constructs. That is white supremacy culture. So we talk about nature, we talk about creativity, we talk about traveling, and how it's much better to be deepening and strengthening and honing our creative practices instead of jumping on to the next best thing or the best or the next thing on the list to do. And how we can actually just luxuriate a little bit more in the extraordinariness of the ordinary day-to-day lives we lead. Anyhow, enough of me rambling on and giving away all the juicy nuggets of this episode. Why not just dive in and listen to it for yourselves, and you decide if you can take away such wisdom and generosity and grace and creativity. Anyway, welcome back, and thanks for listening. Until next time, bye for now. Welcome, Dal.
Hi, Sheree.
Welcome back to the Earthly Love podcast.
Thank you for having me back here.
It's been a while. It's been a while. And as we were saying, I have been trying to get you back for, I want to say a couple of years now, you know. It has been, because we had one lined up where we were just going to catch up, and then it got moved for different reasons. And then we got into the Black Nature in Residence project, and we were going to do one for then, and it didn't happen. I'm sure people who go through the show notes will say, I thought there were 5 creatives, but there's only 4 podcasts.
I like to keep myself a bit elusive.
Or we could say we're just leaving the best to last, you know, to put it in after all the dust has settled. But before we get into details like that, Dal Kular, please introduce yourself in the sense of where are you at this moment in time? Let's situate ourselves again, and how we could say what are you seeing in nature, and also how is this season finding you?
So if I situate myself right in this moment, I am sat in my living room. This is situating myself physically. I'm in my living room. I am on my sofa. I'm very rarely on my sofa recording podcasts and things. I'm usually up in my attic. So I love that I'm on my sofa in my kind of fuchsia colored dressing gown.
I
And
love
I just love this, that
that.
I feel very cozy, very relaxed. Being here and can see I am close to nature because I'm looking out the window. I can see the sky. I've got like I don't know, is it a yucca plant? I've got a yucca plant that I'm looking at now that's saying, "Where's my water?
Oh God, I love
Please,
them.
where's my water." I'm not liking essential heating. And also a few cobwebs. I can't see the spiders. That's an invitation for them to stay inside for the duration of this podcast. It's been a really unusual wintry season for me in that I've been having lots of little adventures, lots of rest, but loads of walking, walking. And I can't even remember when I last recorded a podcast, whether it was before or after a head injury that I had. That's kind of been a really long recovery, but I hadn't been doing as much walking as what I used to do. Um, and over this winter, weirdly, I've really built my walking fitness back up. So the season's been keeping me walking and
Mm.
building my walking practice and my walking courage and confidence after slipping up and falling flat on my face. Um, so that's been an incredible joy for me, and really boosted my confidence in so many different ways. And just being close to nature. My last big walk was up on the moors. We set off from my house through the parks into the Peak District. No map, always go mapless, up onto the moors. Ended up being in a storm with like sideways snow and rain, off path.
Oh,
Got trapped behind an electric cattle fence and
yeah.
managed to make our way home absolutely soaking wet. Did have a waterproof jacket on, I just want to say to everybody, because I know that landscape well, I kind of roughly knew where I was. So we were never in any danger. But it was really, really exciting, really exhilarating. Yeah, little adventure. So I feel like I'm building my physical resources. Yeah, and the
Oh,
season's been keeping me curious and energized and really different. I think this is a hard season for me, particularly coming into January because it's coming up to the season of losing my mum and dad in mid-February and then in March. So it's always felt a little bit weird. Um, and I've kind of managed to disrupt that this year with kind of approaching it in really different ways, but also making sure I kind of like get the hibernation in that I need as well.
oh gosh. Oh, so much juiciness in there, Dal, already. My God. Well, first of all, I'd like to say I'm mirroring you on the couch and in my dressing gown and cozy. Totally cozy. We've got a great overcast day here. It's chilly. So it's really good to connect with you in this cozy sort of capacity. So thank you for that. And also, what you were saying about disrupting how you usually might have been tackling this season, and how you are getting your walking legs back out there. And that is like so music to my soul and something that I can really, really connect with. I know it's like been 2 years probably plus for your head injuries. Let's put it out there. It's 2 times you fell flat on your face, and your head. Yeah.
Well, there was one time that I fell flat on my face, and the time before that, an iron arch on the allotment fell on my nose. A bit of variety to head injury.
Just making sure we spread the load around our heads there. But to be thinking that you are building up that walking muscle again is brilliant because, as you know, I fell on some black ice in January, and I hurt the base of my spine. But I've been so fearful after it and cautious and being overconscious, and like the way I've been walking recently. It's like, please don't look at me, anyone. You don't know what it
I
means.
know that feeling.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if it's like slow steps on the moon, sort of like walking, like, or extra taking extra caution because of gravity or balance. But it was today that when I was, because I have been in the shower, even though I've got my dressing gown on, because I needed water. But in the shower, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't got any pain in my back at this.
Mm.
And I know why I haven't is because I have been walking. I have been. Even though I've been faithful, I know how much walking means to me, not just physically and mentally and emotionally. So I've made sure that I have continued to walk, even when it's been painful. I'd
Mm.
rather have the pain knowing I'm walking rather than having the pain and just sitting on my ass. To hear that, that you're building up that walking is awesome. Is awesome. I mean, mine's just a small injury compared to yours, but yours has been a long time, and how you've had to, I don't know, relearn how to re-engage with what you were doing in your life before this. And maybe it is a case of like now your life is totally changed because of the head injuries. And I
Mm.
don't want to put words in your mouth there, sort of thing. Just from working with you on different things, how you have to compensate for that now.
Yeah.
That is that a right way of saying it or no?
Yeah, I think things have definitely changed since I had the head injury. And compensate or adjust. I think I prefer the word adjustment. I've had to really adjust how I do things, how I pace myself. I still see my recovery as ongoing,
Hmm.
further improvement. Um, but I have had to, yeah, I've still got quirks and manifestations since the head injury that mean that I have to change the way I work. So, for example, doing a podcast like this, um, I might go off on tangents. I might forget the question that you've asked me. I might lose track. I might just suddenly go blank. Um, and those are things that I've always gone off on tangents. If I'm completely honest with myself, I've always gone off on tangents, and like I've sometimes needed the questions repeating, but that's so much worse since the head injury. And I'm 2.5 years older. I don't know, postmenopausal. Maybe some of it's that. I'm not quite sure. It's really hard to separate. So, yeah, I have to make adjustments. I have to have notes or have like questions sent to me. Whenever I'm working with somebody or I'm commissioned, I make it clear, I've had a head injury. This is what I need. I may need more time. I will need more time. That's inevitable. It takes me longer to do things. And I have to pace how I do things. So I can't just, like before the head injury, I'd be able to sit in front of a computer all day. Or if I had to like bash something out within a week, I could do it. Long days, I cannot do that. I can't do it anymore. I've got limits. So things have definitely changed. I need to rest a lot, and I need to if I'm going like away for a few days or a week, I need to plan my time beforehand so I don't wear myself out and plan for time afterwards. But actually, I think it's just being really human. It's like being, relaxed. It's how perhaps, how I am now is how life was or needed to be before all became so fast and so industrialized and just so, everything. It's a lot's changed for me, I would say. I can't even say, would I rather have not? I've had the head injury because I've learned so much from it. I don't want to be all Pollyanna and just say all these silver linings, but there has been so much knowledge and learning and accepting life, accepting my abilities and what I can and can't do. Because at the beginning of the head injury, I was fighting against everything. I was really resisting everything. I needed to be better, and I needed to be better like what I was before. And it took me I got a lot of help from the long-term neurological conditions team. Big shout out to them in Sheffield. And I was under their care for a year, and they really helped me to come to terms with what had happened. And even though it was classed as a minor head injury, that's how they would class the classifications of head injury. It was a really significant head injury. Um, and with a minor head injury, the usual expectation is you're fully recovered within 6 months, and some people aren't. And I was one of those people. So they really helped me to learn how to be with the head injury and how to manage my health and well-being, and to kind of give me the help me be patient about recovery. Um, yeah.
I'm sorry, Dal. I mean, this wasn't in the questions, and we have gone on to a tangent already.
Yes.
So I really appreciate you being open and honest about this because what when you're talking and you mentioned it, it's a case of like these things that you are adjusting to, saying like having more time and pacing yourself and the questions are beforehand. And I do think everyone in society should be or should be have this opportunity in that sense of what I'm thinking of is like I went for a job it recently and I asked are you sending out the questions beforehand so I can prepare, and they says, well, no, that's not our usual way of working. If you've got a medical condition, then we'll do it. And I sent back and says, well, no, I mean, like the people that I've been working with, all the people like how I run an organization is like I send the questions to all beforehand so the onus isn't on that individual, so they don't have to feel that they have to work harder to get it. And I'm saying, like, I want everyone who comes in front of me to be the best that they can be, and giving them the questions beforehand, giving them extra time, whatever they need. And it is that care. It's that care and support so that we can turn up being more human or being the best we can possibly be. But it's that system that we're working in. It's like, it's like, we're going to make it a competition. We're going to make it as hard as it can. We're going to make it fast. We haven't got this time for, these different wants and needs. It's like just what you have saying here is like, yeah, it's like, getting back to how we should. And I'm using should. I don't usually like to use should, but if we're thinking about, our fellow human beings and caring for each other and being supportive and woohoo, I'm your cheerleader, then let's have that sort of,
Mm.
as the norm. Not something that happens because I've signaled I've got a mental injury or a medical condition. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's a completely ableist construct, the interview, and you turn up, you don't know what the questions are going to be, and you have to perform.
Yes.
And it's just like exams, they're just completely ableist constructs, and not like you say, how can you get the best out of somebody if you're just expecting them to perform on the spot? And some people are great at it, and other people, for whatever reason, and there'll be people out there that if that don't realize that they are wired differently, or they may kind of think, well, there's something wrong with me because I can't just come up with an answer on the spot. And often I can't come up with an answer on the spot. So yeah, why let's make a more beautiful world. Let's give out questions beforehand. Let's have different interview formats and ways of to help people to access all these their best qualities.
But that is still me believing and in my that being naive, right? Still me thinking that I'm going into this interview and it's equitable and it's fair, and those who are doing the interview are not coming with their own conscious bias, not already coming with their decision already made, and really we're just going through the motions so you can tick that box and then you can go for that person that you want all along. Do you know what I mean? Because that was how I felt in that particular job. But I'm not bitter. I've moved on because, they were saying one thing and doing another. And I
Yeah.
don't really want to be part of an organization that does that. So yeah,
A really strange thing when you're doing the kind of work that you do, Sheree, and like organizing and offering your work and opportunities in the way that you do, to then go into an organization or an institution that doesn't work that way. It can be a real shock to the system because you're kind of like, your day-to-day work and being and self is in such a different environment and context to what they are. And then you go back in. I've had this experience recently. You go back in and it's kind of like, God, this is just really strange and really weird. And oh my goodness, yeah, this I forgot that this is what it's been like for years and years and years and years and still is.
So yeah. Anyway, that was a tangent. But we're not really. We'll go swinging back round. And the last time that we were working together, Dal, was on the Black Nature in Residence program. Dal was in residence in the Peak District National Park, and let's explore that. How was your experience, Dal?
Let's explore it, Sheree. Let's explore it.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
I
man.
love it.
I would just like to say now at the top of this is that I brought my naivety. Oh, I got it into that program. I brought, I don't know, bags of it. I felt that I was maybe I felt I was carrying this torch. It was like, whoa, we got the torch. Let's go. Let's go. Let's light the way. Let's explore. Let's just be. Let's just, support each other and, make some waves, bring about some change. And yeah, man. And I don't think I lost my torch. I think my torch was just snuffed out
Mm.
many, 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 many times. And I'm not sure if I took the messages. I still lit the torch again and again and again. But I would like to say at the end of it, the torch was again lit, but it's lit, but it's protected. I don't know. I don't know. I'm continuing the analogy here, the metaphor, but it's protected. I think it's got some a metal grill around.
Oh, with stars, the metal is like has got stars cut out of it.
Yeah, yeah. Because then the light can still get through, but nobody can extinguish it.
No, you use the word naivety. I'm just wondering if you brought your honesty, integrity, your curiosity, and your best hopes and dreams to the project. And it makes me think of what we said earlier about if you working in your day-to-day life through a Black feminist lens, global feminist lens, a queer lens, an anti-colonial lens, anti-racist lens, disability justice lens, to then go into other organizations that are not quite in the same space or not even in the same space or spaces or even understand that language, then it's just really hard. It's a real challenge. So like I got total respect for you bringing this project into being and for carrying that torch, even when it was getting dampened. I don't think it was, for me, it was never extinguished. It kept firing up, firing up, firing up. Now protected with this beautiful metal kind of container with stars in it. This is how I'm visualizing it. So I'm just appropriating your vision. But you've got your eyes closed and you look like you're dreaming. Yeah, so that's kind of how I saw it. And I think time's given me a real perspective on it as well, because it's been some time since the end of the project. But I don't want to put words into your mouth. That's kind of, yeah, that's kind of just like some feels that I got about just in response to what you said. I don't know where does that how does that land for you? How I've just what I've
Oh,
just
I love what you were saying in the sense of not naivety, but it was a case of integrity and honesty and the lenses that I were bringing or viewing this project through, which just wasn't being reciprocated or seen or given that space to, I don't know. It was always supposed to be a partnership and a collaboration, but we as a Black organization were leading. But I think that even though repeating that, I just don't think it was grasped what that actually means on
Mm.
the in practical terms.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great, smashing, lovely. But we because we were working with an organization that involved individuals, those individuals were having this external thing. It's happening to the organization and not actually doing that internal work and bringing that internal person to the organization, to the project. They didn't see that this was an opportunity to change their own way of being and thinking, or to actually just have a little shift
Yeah.
that wasn't conceived as as this is an opportunity to do that. And we are here as creatives to help you or support you in it in a sense. Not we're gonna be doing like your DEI consultancy training for the whole organization, but on an individual level here, we can have these discussions or we can talk about it. Or we can, we can sit down together and chat. That didn't translate,
Mm.
that just didn't translate to the point that a case of like any discussions or any discussions, conversations were done without us. And then this is what's happening brought to us in this.
Mm.
And that is like, you're just not getting the point. You're not listening. You're
Mm.
not listening. That was it. You're not listening.
Mm.
And I can see that now. You're right. Having that time and that distance, and also having that silence.
Mm.
So that silence is really important. And there was probably silence within the project, but it was silence um, from the organizations, in the sense of not sharing their conversations with us or not engaging with us on our terms. But then there would be communication and stuff and demands from them on their terms.
Huge learnings, huge like insights and stuff from just from that kind of, yeah, that's organizational. I hate that word organizational.
Mm.
Just huge learnings. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's not a case of like, if I think about the relationship that we've had with Northumberland National Park, that has been 6 or 7 years, that relationship, and being with the same people in that time frame. But even thinking about that, you think that's a period of developing a relationship, gaining understanding and trust. I just feel like that just went all out the window. Others came involved. It was a case of like, I don't know, it's almost like I don't know, it's like we've had a secret affair. It's like, oh yeah, we're in this affair. And then other people come in. It's like, oh no, 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 we haven't had an affair. We haven't, you know what I mean? It's like we haven't had that relationship. Or we
Mm.
haven't had that relationship on those terms. We're reverting back to form. We're going to go back into the herd of the white organizations and work that way,
Yeah.
rather than work how we have been working on that individual basis on with this group. And am I making sense? It's like I felt betrayed in a certain way, and almost like a turncoating. Uh,
Mm. Yeah.
that's how it felt, and that's how there's been no communication
Mm.
after the final event, where I'm sure only one representative from the five parks actually turned up for the final
Yeah.
celebration.
Yeah.
Best has been silence,
Mm.
silence. I've got no reason to go to back to them and say this and say that or whatever. Yeah. That is it from the organization's point of view. I'd like to hear about from a creative point of view. And I don't mean um, expose your dirty laundry. I would just like to hear how you felt it helped, or maybe it didn't help you as a creative in your practice.
Well, thank you. I mean, exposing my dirty laundry. My gussets are not going to go on display. Um,
No,
yeah.
you never hear gusset enough these days.
Oh gosh.
Hmm.
Postmenopausal gussets. My 80-year-old friend said the gussets don't get any better the older you get. So that's just like a little bit of wisdom for all you female, women identified listeners out there. Gussets don't get any better.
Why not? It's wisdom. Carry on.
Wisdom, isn't it? It really is. It's really important wisdom. Do you know, looking back, because that project's been some time now, well, it's felt like some time ago now that I'll use the word completed, but it's still, for me, it's still very much ongoing process. Um, it gave me, I learned a lot actually. It gave me the freedom to create. What I loved about the project and how the organization kind of set it up was to give us creatives the freedom to create what we wanted, how we wanted, to like state our own processes and our own journeys, and to not be outcome led, to not have this is it's got to be this specified outcome, this product. It's
Mhm.
got to be X, Y, Z. No, this was about emergence. Like, where is your creativity taking you? What do you really want to do? What do you want to work on? How do you want like nature to inform the project? So that I really, really cherish that of not having a specified outcome because it just allowed me to be who I wanted to be creatively and create what I wanted to create. And I kind of knew that I wanted to create this giant journal, but I never knew what form it was going to take. Um, so it was really, I mean, obviously Peak District, I love it. I'm out there a lot. And it was really a beautiful way to kind of just put a lot of my decades of walking out in the Peak District into this cooking pot of a journal. Um, because even though I wrote so for people listening out there, for my residency, I created a giant journal, which was all the background was created with handmade ink. So I learned natural ink making as part of my residency. I went to stay with my 80-year-old friend Carol in Wales, who is incredible artist using natural materials. She taught me how to make eight natural inks out of like found materials. And then I also made an ink made from sheep bones. You charred the sheep bones, ground them down, and made something called black bone ink, which was a really, really profound alchemical process. We found a sheep that was decomposing on the beach, and we took the bones. So it felt like a real honor that we were just like, taking the bones of this creature and turning them into something that can then be used to paint and write. And so with the giant journal and the surface that I'd created, I also created a poem. I know my bones are as old as you, for the residency, and then I wrote that out in the giant journal in the black bone ink. So that was really, really exciting. And then I guess my favorite bit was the community workshop that we did with global majority women in the Peak District. And I invited them all to create a collage page for the giant journal. So there's a real collaborative bit to the journal. And that workshop was what I loved about that workshop is that we just went with the flow of like the women's creativity. They came up with the idea of weeds and the power of weeds, and so we just flowed with that all day, and that's what went into their collages. So I learned that through all that process. So I didn't know the giant journal would take that form. I had other ideas. Something just clicked, particularly when I was in Wales making natural inks and actually the form of the journal. There was lots of like note taking and ideas and stuff like that. And yeah, finally I got the form and shape, but I confess it did feel uncomfortable um, at times because after I'd written my proposal, I was like, why are you saying you're going to do a giant journal, Dal? What's that going to look like? It's so big. What are you going to put in it? How are you going to fill it? And you've only got 20 days. But what I learned looking back now, that was really important to push myself right out of my creative comfort zone and to just really sit with that discomfort, just to be a bit uncomfortable with what I made or put down, or the poems I've made, and just because the feeling like, oh, this isn't right, or it's not good enough, or whatever, and to learn to love it exactly for what it was. And also, and I think I've this has gone a bit in the last 2 years of like recovery, to have a big creative ambition, to like say, I'm going to make a giant journal, to then think, oh, fuck, how on earth am I going to do that? Like it is a big journal. And I think that's really important. I look at that now and I just think it's really important for me to think of ideas that feel impossible, undoable, that I don't know, and that might not have the resources or the knowledges, and think I'm going to do it and I'll find out as I go along, which I think is the creative process anyway, isn't it? It's experimentation. But it was lovely. What I loved was being in community with the other artists, and to know that, there was five of us, regardless of what was going on organizationally and in institutions and stuff like that. There were five of us, pinpoints of light, each in the five northern national parks. We were doing something groundbreaking. I mean, the phenomenality of what I've forgotten names, testament.
Yeah, I did Jola, Nadia.
Yeah. Projects they created, like the ideas, the creativity, pushing boundaries, bringing new knowledges to the fore, working otherwise and outside, in their own way. This was quiet, quiet disruptions. These were quiet pinpricks of light that were also like dislodgements, dislodging colonial narratives of who can be, create, do in rural areas or countryside. For me it was really groundbreaking and radical, regardless of the challenges, and there's always challenges in these kinds of projects. So to be part of that kind of like constellation was really important to me, to be part of like Black Nature in Residence, kind of perspectives and the lens through which you identity and time were coming, were really really important to me, and to have that space held by yourself as well was just crucial. So yeah, there was me and my part doing what I was doing, but there was also it being part of the collective was really powerful. God, I can't do short answers, Sheree.
I don't want you to do short answers because this really helps me because listening to you, it is helping to rewrite the narrative that I've been having on being the project coordinator. And it is again shining it back up to what we really achieved.
Yeah,
And I just love that. It was a quiet disruption. And
yeah,
it was, dislodging the colonial narrative. And it was, it was this, what you were saying, a groundbreaking radicalization of who can be or create or do in the countryside. I love that message. And it's not a case of like bigging it up or blowing wind into it. That's what it was.
yeah,
And I'm so glad that you've just shared that because that helps me to shift my lenses and my thoughts and my narratives on it. Being that mediator between the organization and the creatives, I've allowed the organizations to color how I've seen the project. I mean, at the end when we had the celebration, it was a celebration, and I appreciated that. And to see everyone presented what they'd created, it's like, oh my gosh, it was just like the proof's in the pudding, man. We says just let them be creative, let them be, and things will happen. And that was the evidence, and it wasn't a case of we were thinking of the outcomes. And what you said there about dreaming big, the only constraints or the only parameters were what you were putting on yourself. And
mm,
that was such a brilliant change from what can be put onto the creative from the organization in their expectations. They say they want creativity and creators, but we want you to create this, and we want you to do this, and we want you to engage with these. That's not creativity. That's not how the creative process works. It's like basically you want me to produce something that you've already said, that you've already said what it's going to look like, what it's going to be. So instead of the organization clipping the creatives' wings, it was a case of like we left it up to the creatives to clip their wings or not. If they and we didn't really want you to clip your wings. We just wanted you to fly.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of flying. I think there was a lot of flying.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
on and we did the work,
Yeah.
the creative work.
So thank you. Thank you for that. Much appreciated for that. Okay, I've got my other head on now, Wurzel Gummidge style. Yeah, thank you. Um, this year, 2025, I made the decision to not put my money, how limited it is, into material possessions, but to put it into experiences. And those experiences that I've been having are involve some kind of travel. And I first came across you, Dal, traveling in Muddy. I know I mean, it was on in a digital space, but I saw you traveling in Muddy, and you were going here, there, and everywhere. So let's talk about because you've been already this year, you've already been on a few travels. So let's talk about some recent travels and why do you travel or why do you choose certain places to travel to?
Yeah, it's really unusual for me to travel so much at the beginning of a year. And at the beginning of this year, I was in Malta. I try not to fly. That is something I will say. I try to fly as little as possible, and I'll only do it for family because I have family in Canada and India. But I knew from the last few winters I really needed winter sun. Found the most bargainous holiday that you would not believe to Malta for 9 nights to a remote place. Never been to Malta before. And yeah, set off I went and I was with a friend. We just walked. I wanted to be by the coast and I wanted to be mapless. I didn't want to like have to like get maps and all that sort of stuff, map and compass. Although I highly recommend map and compass, my safety risk assessment thing here. Take map and compass, dress properly for walking. Don't go out in storms with inadequate clothing or without a sandwich. Um, I'm totally losing track here, Sheree. Where am I? Yeah, so I went to Malta and I just did loads and loads of walking. I was staying somewhere called the Lunar Holiday Complex, which was like going back to the 1980s, and it was absolutely fantastic. Got a room with a sea view and just walked, coastal walking, just walked and walked and walked.
You usually travel to places where you can commune with nature in a sense.
In terms of travels, I really love going to remote places. I don't have Muddy anymore. So, folks out there, Muddy was my very tiny camper van that happened to be brown. And I never wanted a brown van, but I ended up with a brown van and it named itself Muddy. Peugeot partner with a tiny, like, little camping unit in the back. So, super small, stealthy camping van. And it was absolutely fantastic. I had it for 4 years and I did lots of trips to the Outer Hebrides. And I really love getting to spaces where I see as few human beings as possible. I must confess, that's what I really, really love. Even though I want everybody to enjoy nature, I love being somewhere where I'm just pretty much isolated and alone and by myself. And Outer Hebrides are a particularly special place for me because they feel it's quite an effort to get there if you're driving there. For me, I have to break the journey up into several days, and you're getting on ferries. And there's also just the pure adventure that, to get from island to island, you're going by ferry. There's lots of like places where you can just get off the beaten track and be on like 4 mile stretches of sand with nobody else, golden beaches. Um, and it's just like so rich with wildlife and birds and beaches and history and mythology. And it feels the whole of the Outer Hebrides just feels like such a thin place to me. I really feel like the Orkneys feel the same as well. I just feel that I touch different aspects of my of my soul, of my whole being. I feel a bit more porous and open and feral and more possible. I just feel kind of untethered. Um, so I have that particular draw to traveling to islands, and I think that I really find that coastal areas, being by the sea, and this is something that's come to me more in the last 4 or 5 years, really just do something otherwise unruly to me. Yeah, so those are the kind of travels that I really, really love to do by road, by public transport. I went all the way up to North US by public transport last September by super cheap split ticketing, train tickets. As you know, Sheree, I love my bargain travels. I will try and do my bargain travels as much as I can. And then I took a coach journey from Glasgow to Uiga on Skye. That was a 7 hour, absolutely stunning coach journey. And then my 2 hour ferry from Skye to Lochmaddy. And it was just the actual journey itself was an incredible adventure. And that was a very different trip for me. I didn't have my van, so I was static in one place on North Uist and just got to know one area, particular area, really intimately.
So did you create anything when you were there?
So on all my journeys, I always start a new travel journal. Um, so particularly on not last year, but the year before, when I did like, oh, it was over 3 week road trip to Scotland and then 2.5 week in the Outer Hebrides. I really like honed my travel journal styly. Um, I do like to take my little Polaroid camera and to like maybe take a photo of each day and to stick it into my journal. It's something so different to then printing out like a picture that I've taken on my camera later. I've actually captured that moment. I can usually remember when I've taken a Polaroid, just being there and being in that moment. Yeah, and just kind of recording moments, reflections. Yeah, so I've always got a travel journal. I might stick things in it, like cards of places I've visited, stuff like that. If I've found a feather or a leaf or something, just to kind of bring it alive. And it really does. It takes me back there to that moment, because I know if I don't do that on a journey, I'll forget. I'll forget the details of journey, or I might lose the pictures on my phone. I did lose some pictures of some journeys years back up that were on my phone. But if I've got it in a physical record, and that keeps me writing, keeps me noticing, keeps me engaged in my creative practice. And on coming back from journeys, I just usually get on with whatever works on hand, or what I'm being commissioned to do, or any personal projects I'm working on. I did a little bit of bookbinding. So when I went to North US last year over by public transport, I was also going to spend a few days with a bookbinder and learn traditional bookbinding. So I had a really lovely time learning that and made some books, and also learned that there's nothing about me that's a traditional bookbinder. Um, but I learned a lot about craft and technique and care and love. And so I have made journals. I make journals. So I've been working on my journal making, bookmaking practice since I've been back from there. But no, I haven't made anything other than that.
Well, that's enough and a lot. It is a case of it's what we do to keep our creative practice and process going. For us, I mean, that's what my primarily is my creative practice, right? It's for me to make sense of me being in this world and navigating through this world. And
Yeah.
that's more than enough, more than enough. So I've just got one more question to ask you, Dal.
Yes.
Been on here a while, and I know, it is taxing for you. So thank you for your time, your energy, and sticking with it. But the last thing is like, what plans you got on the horizon for you and nature, maybe? What's your plans?
Honestly, I've had such a busy 2 years, and last year was really, really busy with creative commissions, and I was knackered by the end of the year. My plan this year is to rest a lot, to walk, to deepen. So there was a lot of like the new projects and pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I can see that now last year. So I would just kind of want to consolidate and deepen my processes and knowledges I don't feel that I want to particularly go out there and start something brand new in the sense of something that I've never done before. I want to kind of like maybe deepen and stretch and push myself within what I've been practicing. So that applies to my book art and journal making, also applies to really honing in on my writing practice again, because writing, my own creative writing um, practice kind of went a bit awry during the recovery time, my head injury. So by that I mean like, every day committing to writing, to working on my own creative pieces, working towards a new body of work. So doing that in kind of a gentle, manageable way, focusing on creating community and creative community. Yeah, and then I have my nature, my allotment. I've now got some volunteers. That's been hard to keep going with everything, because I've only had a certain amount of energy to spread around. So I've got some lovely people who are wanting to help me with that space and to carry on writing nature otherwise and to challenge. I hear a lot of people saying nature writing's over, it's saturated, nobody really wants to read about nature anymore. And I think there's, well, absolutely everything in this world is nature. In fact, every bit of writing is writing about nature in some sense or form because there's no separation from it. Um, so yeah, I kind of want to, I guess that's my like where my ambition comes in. How can I kind of really push myself in terms of that? And I don't know what that'll look like. I have no idea.
I love that because it sounds to me as if you're focusing on that self-care, but that also equals community care in the sense of, you're resting, you're deepening your practice, but then this comes out also. Other people benefit from it, from what you're being and what you're doing. To me, it's wisdom here. Like you are disrupting the usual flow of things. If we think of white supremacy culture, you're not going for the next big thing, or you are stopping and breathing and being. And that isn't given value enough in society and in our culture in this moment in time. But I think the more of us are doing it, the more of us do it, the more it does have that ripple effect. To me, that's how I think. That's how I think. If we share that, like by putting out a sign saying I'm resting, fuck up, or if we just do it quietly, in our dressing gowns on our sofas, we're still having a ripple effect because it's the energy that we're putting out, which is
It's
really cool.
permission giving to others.
It is that.
It's against prevailing culture. I think one thing that I've really, over the past, I don't know, however long, I'm really, really against everything and all the shit and stuff that's happening in the world. I come back to the ordinary and the extraordinary beautifulness of the ordinary, like and the mundane, being at home and really enjoying the small things. It sounds like such cliches, being in the now. So for me, a big thing has been what's happening now. Let me focus on that. Let me be with the person that I'm with. Let me really enjoy this moment instead of wishing I was somewhere else. Or I'm not saying let's not dream about that, but also I'm alive now. I'm alive in this moment. And there have been a lot of bereavements around me. And I've lived longer than quite a few friends now. And I'm very, very conscious as I get older. There's less and less time and never know when, we never know when we're going to kind of rebirth into something else. So I really want to revel in the gorgeousness of small, tiny moments and really absorb that into my cells and appreciate all that just because I want to and because I love it, but also as a what's the word? What's the word, Sheree? As a refusal of what is happening in the world, of how the world might want to drag me into fear or consuming or complacency around what's happening, maybe, in Palestine or Congo, whatever. It's like, no, you know?
Definitely. It's that fugitivity,
Yeah.
but we're not going there today.
And maybe we won't need to go there, don't we? There's
Yeah,
so much more to say. There's so much more to say.
that'll be another episode. But until then, Dal, being with you now has been such a pleasure and honor. I have been soaking it up. I have gotten my Dal medicine. Thank you very much. And I'm going to get it again when I edit this as well, because I'm going to keep the pot topped up with Dal medicine. But it has been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. And hopefully we can see each other in the flesh soon.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sheree, for having me on the podcast. I feel like I've just had Sheree's Unruly Therapeutic. And I feel, yeah, my soul feels full by sharing this space with you. And yeah, thank you to everybody who's got to the end, who's managed to get to the end and listen to us in
Uh,
our dressing gowns on a lovely glumiferous day.
Thank you, Dal. Thank you.